Hey folks, I just thought I would do a short walk-around video describing the modifications I made to a stock DR650 to turn it into what I considered the ideal travel partner. And you guys have heard about my bike Sunny, so here you get to meet Sunny a little closer up. I'm sitting here in Lima, Peru right now, renting an apartment in the Miraflores area. And I'm just waiting for things in Chile to get a little calmer before I cross the border in a week or so. So let's get going on the walk around. Okay, starting with the wheels. I was lucky enough to have Woody Whitty, the owner of Woody's Wheelworks, supply me with a set of really incredibly beefy wheels for this trip. They were built by his master wheel builder, Jared. They have super light hubs, which are lighter than a stock hub. These have Buchanan spokes, which are much thicker than stock. Takasago XL rim. And my rear rim is sealed, so I'm running a tubeless tire on the back. The super light hubs do take stock DR650 cush rubbers, but I'm running ProCycle's new polyurethane cush rubbers in there, which far outlast the stock DR650 cush rubbers. You can see my front wheel is also made by Woody's. The front wheel is a 21-inch. It is not sealed for tubeless, but it does have the super light hub, Buchanan spokes, and the Takasago XL rim. I am running Moto-Z Tractionator front and rear tires. Starting up front on the bike, the front suspension, the stock DR650 externals, but inside the forks are Cogent DDC cartridges and a Cogent spring set. And that Cogent spring set was designed to carry the extra weight of all this gasoline and my luggage. On top of the fork, I have a Warp 9 fork brace. That fork brace is supporting a Honda NX650 Dominator front fender. I don't know if you can see that. That's a low fender. It's got about an inch clearance to the tire, so I have not had problems with mud buildup. I also have an OEM 1972 Suzuki mud flap I found online attached to that. Keeps things clean up on the front of the bike. I have a rotor cover up front that came with my bike, and I decided to keep it. It really does help keep the caliper and things, the rotor carry and the hub, clean. Up on top of the fork, I have an RSW Racing billet upper clamp. That replaces the real flimsy DR650 upper clamp. RSW Racing's clamps for the bars, I have also included a set of 2-inch ROX risers that have an anti-vibration insert there to take a lot of vibration out of the bars. I don't know if you can see that. I'd like to thank ROX Risers for their help with the equipment. For handlebars, I'm running Pro Taper Evo CR High. That's a really nice curve for me. There are plenty of length on the ends to mount all my stuff. I have Cycra Pro brush guards. I'm using Oxford Adventure Series heated grips. It's a 5-position heated thing. It turns off automatically too, which is awesome. Saves the battery. This right here is a controller for my output on my Gerbing's heated jacket. That's just held onto the handlebars with silicone tape, but it's been there for 2 years now. It hasn't budged. Right here on my tank bag mount, that's the plug-in for my heated jacket liner. That's also where my tire inflation pump, my tire pump, plugs in. You can see the straps here and down here for my Wolfman tank bag that I use. And people wonder about using a tank bag on this big safari tank. That Wolfman bag sits right on top of the gas cap, and you can see the vent tube is kinked over. It still vents plenty. I've never had any problems with gas flow. I am using little mirror extenders. These are Chinese parts I got on eBay very cheap, but they're very sturdy. And I'm using double take adventure mirrors. So I don't really fold these in too much for off-road riding. I love the double takes because when you're going through hallways in hotels and hostels and riding your bike into weird places, you hit your mirrors, they just pivot out of the way. On my dashboard of my Yenkro fairing, that's a Yenkro Kevlar rally fairing, has a KTM headlight, and inside there I have a Philips LED H4 insert. You can see the Yenkro fairing has two different settings for the windshield height. I have the windshield on the upper setting, and I also have this deflector added. The deflector's nice because with one hand I can raise or lower it or change the angle while I'm riding. Heck, it's easier to do when I'm riding than it is right now talking about it. On top of my dashboard, I have a Zumo 595 Garmin that I use for navigation and music. It links to my Spotify account on my cell phone for music. Okay, underneath that you can see the Trailtech vapor gauge. That's my main gauge. I'll turn that on for a second. This left switch controls a voltage gauge and dual USB charger. The right switch controls an LED light bar. I'll give you an idea how bright that light is, but I also have a 60-watt floodlight and spotlight combination LED bar under there. Lots of light. And since it's all LED, it doesn't use much juice. So that controls the LED light bar. This controls the output to the USB charger, showing battery voltage at rest too. There's my Zumo. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, moving back, I have a 30-liter Safari gas tank. And I'm actually fitting closer to 38 liters in it now because it's more than 2 years old. It's stretched out. That's fine. No leaks or cracks or anything anywhere. This is a Corbin Set Saddle. People complain about Corbins because they're heavy or they're too firm. I just know that they just get better and better and better with age. The Safari tank is so large that it requires two petcocks. There's a petcock on this side. The tube goes around to the other side to a T-fitting. These are gravity fed, so you have to remember to turn the petcock off, or else fuel can get past the O-rings and flow into and fill up the carburetor bowl and then the airbox and the crankcase. It's a DR650 problem if the O-rings going to the float bowl wear out. So I put these arrows here to remind me to turn my petcocks off when I'm done riding. The motor is completely stock on my bike. The carburetor is stock, except it has nitrile O-rings on it to be resistant to ethanol. My airbox is stock. I still have my snorkel, no holes cut in it. I'm running a twin air filter in there though that's a little bit more free-flowing than stock. My header pipe on the exhaust is stock. The mid pipe, you can't see it back there, is from ProCycle. That's made to fit this Suzuki GSXR titanium muffler. This is like the holy grail. It's the X40 FOX. That's the 2002 GSXR 1000 muffler. Very quiet and very lightweight, and there's no packing inside to go bad. It's just baffles. On the rear of that, I have a spark arrestor. Let's see. Up front, I have lower crash cages made by Dirt Racks in Canada. J&S Engineering lowered foot peg brackets that lower the foot pegs down an inch and back an inch. Pro Moto Billet monstrous adventure foot pegs. They're awesome. It's like standing on the ground. They're so big. Give you a lot more leg room too when you're a taller person like me. J&S Engineering cage covering the rear master cylinder in case of crashes. Let's see. This bottle right here is a Wolfman bottle holder. This is my fuel bottle for my stove. I have an Adventure Spec radiator or oil cooler cover. I have a little bit larger than stock horn, but still just an electro horn. It's loud but friendly. I also have replacement valve covers on this bike that are finned to help keep the head temperatures down a little bit. Mounted on my crash cage up front, I have Touratech flip-up highway pegs. This bag on this side has filters, fuel filters in it. J&S Engineering is a case saver and sprocket cover. It's also a J&S Engineering rear sprocket cover. DR650 modification is common is I removed completely the upper chain roller and I replaced the lower chain roller with a bigger one that's mounted on a sealed bearing. Should last longer than stock. Shift lever has been replaced by one that folds in an accident. Let's see. In the back, the racks are made by Moose. I've modified a Wolfman fender bag. This normally fits on top of the front dirt bike fender for holding inner tubes. I have it mounted behind my left rack, and it's loaded with inner tubes and flat tire replacement. Here I have a toolkit, much larger than stock, and inside that I have a trail stand. I don't use a center stand. This is a trail stand to prop up either the front or rear wheel, and that way I can change tires, fix flat tires. What else? Rear taillight is not stock. That's a DR350 taillight that sits lower, and it's got an LED insert in it that's very bright. My license plate bracket is actually a hidden stash box, the lock right there. And inside that stash box I have sealed away in a plastic seal original copies of my title, registration, and passport. In the back I have a one-piece steel rack with a Givi nylon plate mounted to it. This is a Givi Trekker Outback top case. This top case is like my kitchen, has all my cooking supplies, my food, spices, all that kind of stuff in it. And that's about it. For panniers, I'm using Mule pack panniers. They're made out of blow molded poly, just like a kayak. So they're kind of indestructible like a kayak. Let me see if one-handed I can put one on the bike to show you how they fit. The rack just hooks over, the bag just hooks over the bottom of the rack. And then there are two threaded knobs. They go through a hole in the case and they line up with the threaded fitting on the moose rack. And I'm not going to bother tightening it down all the way, but you tighten those two knobs down all the way and that's the case. And unlike aluminum, these things are indestructible. You can run over them with a car, they'll pop right back into shape. And these have lasted a long time for me already, and they're waterproof still. And I can't recommend them enough. They're also lighter than aluminum. Okay, folks, I think that's about it. Oh, LED turn signals all around. I have Galfer brake lines, stainless steel brake lines, front and rear. Oh yeah, you can't see it, but my regulator and rectifier that's mounted right here, I replaced with a MOSFET regulator rectifier, and that really stabilized my charging. Chain and sprocket are JT steel chains, steel sprockets, and a JT X-ring chain. You can see I have a little ram mount drink bottle. This is where my daily drink I sip while I'm riding. On the handlebars, I'm running a X-grip. This is where I mount my iPhone. And I'm using a throttle lock for cruising on extended periods. It's like a Poor man's cruise control works really well. Okay, folks, I think that's it. Talk to you later.